So after much thought and deliberation, you finally decided you're going to homeschool. But now what? Well, if you're in California, there are actually 3 ways that you can file, and you probably didn't even know about one of them. I actually recently just found out about it, and I'm going to share it with you right after this. Hey there, my name is Melissa Branham, and I am the mom of the WanderStruck crew. And I'm usually bringing you tips to help you with homeschooling, where to get started with homeschooling, and interviews with homeschool moms to help you learn from their journeys and to help you along yours. But today, I'm bringing you a little how-to video, information video, a little mix of both to help you figure out what to do next when you're ready to start homeschooling. There's actually 3 ways that you can file for homeschooling here in California, and I didn't even know about the 3rd way until just the other day when I was sitting down with one of my friends doing her homeschool interview. Her name is Yvette Evans. If you have not seen that interview, I'll link it below so you can follow along with her journey. She's a very amazing mom and a really wonderful story. But let's talk about the 3 ways that you can file. Number 1 is if you'd like to file independent. Independent means that you are filing paperwork with the state to let them know that you are forming your own private school. The paperwork you file, it's called a private school affidavit. I'll link below so that you can see where that process is. And for the 2021 school year, they've updated their filing process to make it more seamless, probably in light of the amount of people that are homeschooling, which is even better for us so that you can get the paperwork done and get it over with and not have to worry so much about checking so many boxes. It's all right there in one place for you. But let's talk about a homeschool affidavit and what that means. You're filing basically to say that you are forming your own private school. Now, the cool thing is, if you're forming a private school, you get to name your private school. So that's pretty cool. Start thinking about what you want to name it. You also have to file this private school affidavit annually, so it needs to be done from the beginning of October to mid-October. October 1st to October 15th is the only time you have to file if you are filing for the year. Now, let's say you're just now moving into California and you're moving in mid-school year. That doesn't apply to you. You just file your private school affidavit when you are able to. But if you're wanting to start out the school year from a public school and move into homeschooling, you need to file your private school affidavit between October 1st and October 15th. You can start school anytime. Our family actually homeschools year round, so it doesn't matter when you start school, it's just that's when the paperwork is filed. Unfortunately, there are no tax breaks for homeschooling. We don't get any money back or any money when filing a private school affidavit. You're completely 100% solely financially responsible for filing and for the monetary expenses of your kids' education. But the nice thing about filing as a private school is that you are 100% in control of what you teach. You still have to keep attendance records. You have to keep work samples just in case you're ever questioned or asked to show those records by the authoritating figures who check those things. But if you do that and you have it, then you're good. But you don't have to turn those into somebody every month or every week or every school year. You just have to keep them on hand in case you're questioned. In addition to keeping the attendance records and work samples, you also need to keep grades, especially for high schoolers. And if you have a high schooler, you'd want to go above and beyond and not just keep grades, but probably go through a grade reporting system. There are programs that offer official transcripts. So you turn in the grades to them and they create an official transcript in order for you to turn in to colleges. Now, I don't know, part of me thinks, well, how did they know that I didn't gloss my kids' grades over? Well, Actually, in the interview I had with Yvette Evans, she addressed that and had some really great suggestions on how to show that your kids are actually worthy of the grades that they're getting. So I'll link that video below so you can see what her suggestions were with her high schoolers. You also are required to participate in state testing even when you are a private school affidavit. Now, you can opt out, and that's a lot easier to do when you are a private school, but it's still asked, expected, required. You're still supposed to do it. But like with a public school or a charter school, you can still opt out, and there's less pressure to participate. In many states, you're required to have at least a high school education or a GED in order to homeschool. You don't have to have a teaching credential, but you do need to have at least a GED or a high school diploma. As in many states, you are required to teach the core subjects, but like I said, the beauty of filing a private school affidavit is you don't have to report to anyone or get approval from anyone on the curriculum that you're choosing. So if you'd like to have something that is a religious-based curriculum, you can do that, and there's no one to say that that's not okay. Basically, when you file a private school affidavit, you don't get money or tax breaks, but you also don't have the oversight, and you don't have to jump through the hoops to get approval for things that you'd like to teach. It becomes a much freer way of homeschooling and is a really great option for many people. Okay, so option number 2, if you want to think about another option for how to file, is to go with a charter school. A charter school is a publicly funded school that only receives about 70% of the funding that a public school does. So if your child receives $10,000 for going to a public school, the charter school only receives $7,000 for having your school enrolled in their school. But the nice thing about a charter school is, well, there's lots of different options here. How do I start? A charter school can have 3 different options. They can be a full-time charter school, meaning butts in seat 5 days a week, just like a public school. There can be a hybrid charter school where you go to school a couple days and then they do their schoolwork and homework at school the rest of the day. So it's a hybrid. They do a little bit of regular traditional school and a little bit of homeschool. And then there's fully homeschool charter schools where you as the parent are their educator, and the school has a teacher who oversees you as the educator, but they are completely solely at home and you get to make the choices for their education. And it sounds really great, but there are restrictions or stipulations to that. So we'll get to that. So charter schools are publicly funded. They're under a school district just like a school would be. They receive a portion of the funding, but they don't have the same oversight that traditional public school does, meaning that their teachers don't belong to the teachers union, so they have a little more flexibility for pay and vacation. They also are able to retain teachers who do their job well, and it's a lot easier to let teachers go. Now, with schools, when they are a charter school, they can choose their education style. So a lot of times somebody will start a charter school that wants to have a particular education style, such as Waldorf or Montessori or classical. If you're not sure about the different education styles, I'm going to link a video below that talks about different types of education, and that will give you a little insight into each of the different types of schooling. When you homeschool, you can choose one of those styles of education if you like or not, because you get to be in charge and be flexible. But a charter school often will start because they want to teach one of these in particular. So there'll be a charter school brick and mortar that wants to teach Montessori, and then maybe one that wants to teach Waldorf. As a homeschool charter though, you have the say in what you teach. So the school doesn't oftentimes pick a type of education style that they want. But the school has more flexibility in also getting to choose what days that they have off, how many days a week they meet. Now they have to meet a certain amount of days in the school year, and they have to meet a certain amount of hours, but there's more flexibility into how they want to make that work. Oftentimes a charter school will say, we have early dismissal every Friday and we have late in every Monday to give you a longer weekend. But with a homeschool charter, They don't usually set boundaries like that because everybody's schedule is different. But if you have a brick and mortar charter school, you'll often find that. It also, as a charter school, they have more flexibility in curriculum. Now, they still are held to the same standards, meaning they still have to do state testing, and they may not spend their funding on anything that has religious content, because you wouldn't see that in a public school. It's public funds are not allowed to be used to purchase that. So let's say you want to file as with a homeschool charter school. You sign up with that homeschool charter, and that school is going to assign a teacher to your students. And that teacher is basically oversees your family. They are your point person between you and the school. They will collect work samples for you to turn in every learning period or every month. They make sure that you get your attendance records done and completed. They will assist you if you have questions on, maybe you have a struggling student who has a hard time learning math, or maybe you have a vision for how you'd like to teach science. They can help to make that match and help you find what it is that you're looking for that meets that criteria. Now, I think this is a really great time to say that a good credentialed teacher with your homeschool can make or break your homeschool experience. If you get a teacher that you just don't mesh well with, then you're not going to have a good charter school experience. It really depends on the teacher. So I encourage you, if you sign up with a charter school and you don't like your teacher, or you just don't feel like your personalities meet, or that they meet your needs because essentially they are working for you, then you need to find a new teacher. You can request for the school to transfer you to another teacher, and that's okay. You need to do that for the benefit of you and for your children, because that person is there to support you. If you don't feel like you're being supported, then they're not doing what you need. Now, there are requirements that a homeschool charter requires of you. You have to not only fill out attendance records and turn in work samples, but your certified teacher that oversees your family, you're supposed to meet with them for 1 hour every month or every learning period. It depends on the school, but you're supposed to meet with them for 1 hour per child during this time. So, for example, our teacher meets with us for 4 hours about every month. And during this time, she'll answer questions that we have. She'll let me know what's going on in the school, upcoming activities. I can discuss with her any struggles that I've been having, and she can help to guide me or navigate me through those struggles and see if we can come to something that works better for the kids. It's great to have that guidance, somebody to really hold your hand to help you through the process as you get along in your homeschool journey. You're really not going to need that anymore, but it's still nice to have the access to the resources. But here's the big sell on charter schools is you receive funding. So you don't just get handed a check at the beginning of the year and they go, here you go spend it on school stuff. Yeah, no. Here's how it works. When you sign up, your kids essentially get an online account. So you log on to your student's account and you fill out what you would like. So you pick out, let's say you want a globe. You pick out that globe from either an online curriculum store or Amazon or a homeschool supply store that the charter school has partnered with, and you fill in that information that they request in their little boxes and you submit that information. Now, that request that you made has to be approved by your teacher, and then it has to be approved again by the ordering team or person before they will place the order. So if you order something and it has religious content, it doesn't suit your child's grade, or they deem it inappropriate or unsafe, then they will not approve it. Like a bow and arrow. You can't order a bow and arrow. Trust me, I tried. But they will approve things like books and globes and curriculum as long as it's non-religious, science kits, microscopes. It's great. The funding that each school gives you depends on the charter school. I've seen it as low as $500, and I've seen it as high as about $2,700 to $2,900. And how you choose to spend that money doesn't have to be just on physical things like curriculum or monthly kits. Your kids can also sign up for classes. So I had a daughter that took a cooking class at a homeschool co-op here in our city, and that was paid for through the school because they were what we call an approved vendor. The vendor had met the insurance and the safety criteria in order to allow the school to pay for the classes. So it allows a huge amount of flexibility, but it does come with oversight. So it does come with having to report to somebody. You will be told no to certain things, like a bow and arrow. But, you can still order many, many other things. Some charter schools do have a different process. They don't have the online where you log in and order, but you have to go through your teacher to order. So it just depends on the different charter schools. And again, it depends on the amount of money that you get, the ordering process, but you get the general idea. Another really cool thing that you can spend money on is field trips. The charter school will oftentimes put together organized field trips to museums, ice skating, pumpkin patch, things like that. And you can use your funding to purchase tickets to it. So we've gone to see the Nutcracker. We've gone to see the San Francisco Ballet Company. And those were all field trips put together through the school. And we got to use our school funding to pay for our students to attend those field trips. It would be the same as if you were in a public school and your public school offered the field trips. We are receiving less money than a public school would, but we get to choose how that money is allocated and used for our students. So if we choose to use it for field trips as opposed to, I don't even know what public schools spend all of that money on, but we get to choose to do that. You can also spend your student funds on dual enrollment. So if you have a high schooler and they want to enroll in a local community college to take, let's say, math, the school pays for that dual enrollment. So they pay for their textbooks and their enrollment fees for the school and for that class, and they receive high school credit and they receive college credit. That's a really good one. Bookmark that one. Your curriculum that you order has to be secular. It can't have anything religious in it, any kind of religious, Christian or otherwise. It has to be secular. So if you want to purchase something that is a religious-based curriculum, you'll have to pay for it out of pocket. And you can still use a religious-based curriculum. You just can't turn religious-based curriculum in as work samples. So my kids use religious-based curriculum for history, and then when it comes time to turn in a work sample, I just get online, I print up a free worksheet of something that correlates to what we've been learning, and I have them fill that out, and I turn that in for my work sample. But our day-to-day work, we do not do something that is secular, we do something that is religious-based. You can also choose to do a certain learning style. So if you want to go with a Montessori, or you want to go with a Waldorf, or you want to go classical, you can do that, and you can use your funds to purchase Montessori supplies and Waldorf supplies, maybe gardening, things like that. And you can also purchase a lot of books, which is what you often find in classical education, as long as they are not religious. Charter schools will often offer what's called a lending library also. So a charter school will accumulate a lot of supplies as people leave the school. Let's say a family comes into the school, they school for a year or several years, and then their student either leaves to go to public school, or they move, or the child graduates. They have to give back anything that is non-consumable. So anything that they didn't write in or use up. Crayons, obviously consumable. Workbooks that you write in are consumable, but a basketball or globe or microscope would not be consumable. So the school will find themselves with an abundance of these types of things, and they usually will start what's called a lending library. And that means that they will get a location to keep all of these items, and as they have families that need these items, they can check it out like a library. You come in, you check out a microscope, and you take it and use it for however long you need, and you can return it. So that is another really great benefit and access to materials that you can find with a charter school. So like a an independent school or a private school affidavit where you have to turn in attendance and all that stuff, you still have that with the charter school, but they do that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And if the reporting authorities come to you, like I was saying with the private school affidavit, if they come to you and you're with a charter school, you just direct them to the charter school because you're essentially enrolled in the charter school. They are who is in charge of you as a teacher. One of the downfalls I find with a charter school is that the charter school still expects you to teach certain things at certain times, meaning when your child's in 4th grade, they expect California history to be taught. When your child is in other grades, they expect different sciences or different histories to be taught, which doesn't always line up with your plan as a family. Now, if you're teaching to your entire age spectrum of children, you might find that you're teaching world history and they're supposed to be learning California history or state history. So the downside is that there needs to be a little bit of tweaking, and this is where having a good teacher that oversees you is a real blessing because they'll help you to check the boxes but also meet your family's criteria. And having a great teacher can make or break that experience. In our family, we do whole, small classroom teaching. So we teach one subject, everyone together. And if it doesn't meet the criteria, they're going to get it another year. They'll get California history. They just won't get it in 4th grade. Maybe they'll get it in 3rd grade or 5th grade or 6th grade, but they'll get it. It's just not always when the school wants it to, because again, they have to report to the public school system. So they're still held to those same standards, which going into that, they also have to do state testing. The school puts a lot of pressure on you because if they have a certain percentage of students that do not participate in state testing, it affects their funding. So they really put the pressure on to participate in the state testing that is required by all public schools. So just like with a public school, you can opt out, but just like with a public school, there's a lot of pressure to not opt out because their funding is dependent on that. A third way that you can homeschool that I didn't even know about until recently is called a PSP. It's a private school satellite program. And essentially it is a private school that has filed a private school affidavit, and you pay them to start a class under their private school. So you become the teacher of that class and your kids become the students of your class within that school. They handle your attendance, they collect work samples from you, and they make sure that the reporting is done for you, but you are the teacher and you are fully in control. And the beautiful thing is you are under their umbrella, so as long as you are reporting properly to them the things that they ask for, like your attendance records and so forth, then you're covered. And if those authority figures come to you, you send them to your PSP. But you have full flexibility of whatever you want to teach, and there's no reporting to anybody or approval from anybody on the curriculum that you teach. If you would like to teach a religious curriculum, you're totally free to do that. The downside is you do not receive funding and you have to pay to participate. The school that Yvette Evans mentioned in her video and talks to us about runs about $300 to $350 a year. So you don't receive funding, you actually have to pay, but it does cover you with all of your paperwork and making sure that your reporting is done well. Some PSPs offer organized field trips and activities that you have the option of participating in. And each PSP has different requirements that you need to meet to participate in their PSP. So check around and don't be afraid to shop. I'll put a link below that has several links to different PSPs that are available in the California area. If you have any questions, I left you with any questions, or I didn't answer something, please don't be afraid to comment below. And I'd really like to know, how are you schooling, or how are you leaning towards filing your homeschool experience? Are you looking to go with a charter? Are you looking to go independent? I'm curious to know what you're going with and what draws you there. I wish you luck in your journey of homeschooling, and I'll see you next time.